Now all we really need to discuss are the different shading options here in object mode. Now for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and add in a cylinder instead of a cube. We've been using this cube a lot, so let's go ahead and add in a cylinder. Now whenever you add in a new object, I haven't mentioned this yet, but if you go down here to this panel, you'll actually have some settings you can use to kind of change the object you added. So I added in a cylinder. I'm going to make the vertex count 64. Notice it's a bit smoother now. And you can change some other things here. I'm just going to leave it alone and just click. So if we right click, you're going to see three different settings. You're going to see shade smooth, shade auto smooth, and shade flat. Now by default in Blender, we're using shade flat, which means every single little edge here on the object is going to be shaded flat. Now, generally what we do to fix this is we use something called auto smooth. Now before we discuss auto smooth, let's discuss smooth. So you might be tempted to right click and choose shade smooth, but you're going to see when you do that, the cylinder looks really weird. So why exactly is this happening? It's very simple. Whenever you smooth an object, Blender smooths everything. So every single thing, every edge here, every face, whatever, this whole thing is kind of being smoothed over. Now what you want to tell Blender to do is you want to say, hey Blender, I want you to smooth this object, but I want you to smooth the different areas independently of each other. Kind of confusing, but I'll explain. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here. We're going to go to this normals panel and we're going to turn on auto smooth. Remember I told you this panel was important? This is why. What this does is it tells Blender, okay, for any angle that we have that is 30 degrees or higher, shade each piece individually. So basically what happens, if I were to increase this to 90 degrees, notice once I pass 90 degrees, we go back to that original issue. Basically, anything below 90 degrees, it's going to shade those areas individually. So notice, if I go into the side view, we have a 90-degree angle right here. So the default auto smooth value is set to 30. So basically, anything that's 30 degrees or higher, we're telling Blender to shade that individually. So since 90-degree angle here is higher than the 30 degrees, then Blender is going to shade this top face individually, this interior portion individually, and also this bottom portion individually. That's basically what auto smooth is doing. I'm going to make this even more easy to understand, just so that way you really get the gist of it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a little cut in this object. Obviously, you'll learn how to do this later in the course, but I'm just going to quickly do it off camera. So I made a little wedge right here. Now notice this is a pretty, shallow angle right here. This edge right here, which has the weird smoothing on it. So basically, if I adjust this auto smooth angle, if I drop this, you're going to see eventually we catch the right angle. So it looks like once we caught that, it's around 17 degrees. So now we're telling Blender, okay, take something, anything that's 17.8 degrees, any angle that is 17.8 degrees or higher, shade them individually. That's why in this case, 30 degrees won't work because this angle is a little bit lower than that, right? So that's why you might need to adjust this auto smooth angle depending on the, on the angles in your objects. So basically, whenever you're adding in a new object, just make sure you right click and you choose shade auto smooth. The default value of 30 degrees is going to be okay, 80% of the time. But if you ever need to adjust it, feel free to do that in here. And you'll see situations and be more comfortable with auto smooth as we do more stuff inside of this course.